Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Triathlete Podcast. I'm your host, Ram, and today we have with us a really special guest, Santiago Bernal. He's a friend of mine from Seattle and somebody I met when I was training for my first triathlon a couple of months ago, actually earlier last month. So, Santiago, thanks for agreeing to be on the show and welcome.
Great to
Would you
be
like to
here.
start?
Thank you, Ram.
Would you like to start by introducing yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I'm Santiago. I was born in Spain. I moved to the US about 30 years ago, and now I'm here talking to you. But yeah,
Awesome. Yep. So, yeah, this is a personal fitness story show, Santiago. So, can you tell us a bit about how you started your fitness journey?
yeah, I would love to. Yeah, I was always a soccer player. I always ride my bike. Riding my bike was my happy place. But really, what happened to me was, I mean, I was considering myself to be in good shape, but about 10, 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So one of the things about that is that, the more you exercise, the more sugar you burn. So that's kind of like, yeah, you can eat, but if you want to eat everything and anything, you better burn the sugar that you eat, right? So I was a little shocked because I was always in good shape. I was always running and biking. Again, it was my happy place. So I was a little shocked when I got the news on that. But I started to think about, okay, what else can I do other than just one exercise to be able to not bore myself? So I wanted to look for something that um, I always had the option to do different exercises. Plus, I was looking for some kind of a community because sometimes when you exercise and you do it by yourself, it's not the same as having a community that, yes, I mean, at times it could get a little bit intense, but for the most part, I was looking for a community that will help me live more of a healthy lifestyle, learn about the sport, so on and so forth. And triathlon was the one that, I had a friend of mine that started doing it. So I started doing it. I did my first event just using YouTube videos. I definitely advise people not to do that because I made a lot of big mistakes on that. Um, I mean, my son came to my first spring triathlon that I did about 5 years ago, and it was not pretty. Just because you think that you know what you're doing, but triathlon, it's a lot of fun, but it could get dangerous if you don't do it right. So, I went into Facebook. I found this Seattle Green Lake Triathlon group. The rest is history, I like to say, because once I got in this group, I just felt very welcome. People really helped me to get acquainted with the sport. I never felt like pressure or like, excuse my language, stupid for asking some questions. They always like welcome and again, you have some people in this organization that in this group that are really, really good at triathlons. I mean, they are what I will call almost professional triathletes. I mean, their times are amazing. They look really fit,
Hmm.
but at the same time, I would say 80% of the group is just people that want to have fun, people that want to experience and learn about the sport. And I love that. I mean, I've been with them for 5 years and I feel like I just started with them. I have so much more to learn. I really appreciate all the new people that join the group. They ask me questions. I kind of like pay it forward, things that I have learned now, you know. So, anyways,
Um,
that's how pretty much how I got into triathlons. Um,
that's awesome.
Now I've been, about 5 years with them, and I have done all distances, from
Fantastic, man.
sprint to Olympic to half to full Ironman. Yeah.
That's amazing, and I can say that I'm one of the beneficiaries of you paying it forward. It was super fun to meet you in Sammamish and do a swim there. So you mentioned a little bit about when you got started, you kind of just winged it and showed up. But what are the kinds of mistakes that you made that people might be able to learn from?
Yeah, I mean, for example, I grew up in the south of Spain by the beach, so I felt very comfortable in the water. So I'm like, oh, swimming is gonna be a piece of cake. So I went to the pool. I remember going to the pool the first day, and I went like 50 meters going back and forth, and my heart rate was just all over the place. I'm like, what did just happen here? And then I did the math. I'm like, for like a half Ironman, I need to do this how many hundreds of times? It's like, there's no way. But the biggest one that I made, the biggest mistake was like my first triathlon. I was so excited about it, and I have not talked about triathlons. I was kind of like again watching videos. I went to sign up for it, got in the water, And I'm pretty friendly guy, so I started saying hi to everybody. I got myself in front of pretty much all the swimmers. That was my first mistake, right? So
Yeah.
when the horn blows, everybody starts swimming, and then all of a sudden everybody starts swimming over me, right? And I was like, what did just happen here? And it was like one of those that I'm like, instead of going at my own pace, I was going faster to avoid people running over me. At this time, I kind of looked back and I saw this, very nice sized gentleman just coming towards me. And I'm like, no, this guy's not going to hit me. So I start swimming so fast. By the time I finish the swim, and again, I'm talking about a sprint, which is only like 500 yards, my heart rate was like, again, I had gone too fast on the swim. So it took me a few minutes to actually get my heart rate where it needed to be able to get on the bike. So, I mean, that was that's one of the mistakes, right? I
Yep.
mean, I can tell you a lot more again, there's so many things you have to watch when you do triathlons that, for example, when you do the bike, don't eat a lot on the bike when you're almost done with the bike portion, because
Mm-hmm.
after the bike, you're going to be running. You don't want to run with a full stomach.
Yeah.
So again, there's a lot of things so
Yeah.
yeah, I have made some interesting mistakes, and but we all do. We all learn from it. So that's the thing. But we don't make fun of each other. I mean, this is the one sport that I have always felt like if I fail or if I fall or if I have a flat tire, stubborn flat tire, there's always somebody there to help you.
That's
No
awesome.
one to have felt alone on the sport. No
Yeah.
one. So
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned, getting hit by people while swimming, because when I was just, trying to find my way, in the training, the Green Lake Triathlon group, Stephen told me to be aware of that. And I really
yeah,
didn't understand what he meant. But, in one of the training sessions, he actually volunteered to bump me when I was swimming, just so that I got a sense for what it is, because it's very easy to panic in the water. And unless you like experience these things beforehand and kind of know what your body's going to do, it's
yeah.
going to be quite scary. So,
I mean, and that's the thing that I mean, we really like. One of the things about this group is that we also have a lot of meetup sessions. Meetup sessions meaning we meet for open water swims, we meet for cycling events, for running events. We do events for how to do transitions.
hmm
Doing transitions to me, for example, when I started on the sport, I was like, I'll do them eventually, right?
hmm
But then as you get better at the sport, you realize that you waste a lot of time on transition if you don't plan ahead, right? So I mean this group really helps you to get better at all those different events, including nutrition,
yep,
strengthening.
yep,
It sounds like a lot, and you can get very overwhelmed on this
yeah,
sport. So again, I really recommend people to take it step at a time. Don't try to absorb everything. I've been on the sport now seriously for about 5 years, and I still feel like I have to learn 90% of it.
yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the spirit, man. You got to keep learning. On the lighter side, you mentioned that you asked, or at least you were not scared of asking some of the embarrassing questions. So, are there anything particular you remember from when you were starting out?
Well, I'm gonna share in this chat, but again, I hope that some people will laugh about it.
Yeah,
But again, I don't. It's the thing. I didn't feel embarrassed, and the best of all, it's like people didn't laugh at me when I asked the question.
yeah,
They were all
yeah,
like, "These are normal questions."
yeah.
One of them, for example, when you do a triathlon, you usually wear a tri suit, and a
hmm
tri suit is pretty much a skin. You pretty much wear it, over your body. And one of the questions that I had was like, "Hey, do you wear underwear under the?" And everybody laughed a little bit, but it was a good laugh. It was like, "No,
Yeah,
you don't need to. No, that's pretty much what you wear." Because think about it, like when you do lot, longer events, you're gonna be on it for 10 hours or 15 hours. So no, I mean, you want to be comfortable.
yep.
That's one of them. But
Makes sense. Makes sense. Cool. So, wow, you've got like a long history of, activity and athletic event and triathlon. So, how do you fit all of this time to train in your schedule?
So to me, at the beginning, when I started, I think 2018, it felt a little bit overwhelming because it's like, first of all, you have different equipment when you're running, when you're cycling, when you're, it's kind of like, what do I do? And then that adds a lot more time to planning on top of having a life. You got your work, you have your family, you got, medical appointments, you name it, right? The first 6 months, it was kind of like I really wanted to do it, so I didn't feel like it was like I just wanted to do it. But one thing is that after the first 6 months, it just started to feel like a routine. It was a routine that I kind of like. I kind of knew what day of the week I was doing what sports. And again, the nice thing about it is that you can change it. If something hurts, like for example, some people, start running, they run too much, they get hurt, they can go and spend more time on the pool. So that's the nice thing about the sport, that if you get hurt, like on your foot or your hand or something, you can do something else. Like if your hands hurt, you can run. If your
Yeah.
foot hurts, you can swim. But it just became a little more of a routine. But to me, now it has become more of I think of it as a charging station, meaning I work a lot, I spend a lot of energy with the family, with work. But then to me, when I think about getting on the bike, I have a bike at home, very close to where I work. And to me, it's not like, oh my gosh, I have this project I have to finish. I need to finish that. It's more of a no, I'm gonna go on it because I know that once I get off the bike, take a shower, I feel like a new person. I go to these meetings full of energy. People at work, they keep telling me, it's like, where do you get this energy? Do you drink, like energy drinks, or what do you do? People are usually like very like, how do you do it? And I'm like, I just love the fact that I get, everybody's different, but to me, exercising gives me more energy. For some people, it could be not triathlon related. It could be painting. It could be singing. It could be dancing. I always recommend people to just find that thing that gives them that balance. And for
Yeah.
me, it's exercising. I mean, my wife thinks that I'm crazy when Sunday mornings I go for a 15, 17-mile run on a Sunday morning, and
Yeah.
she's like, why?
Yeah, that's hilarious, man. I think people sometimes find it very strange why, triathletes or, long distance runners put themselves through so much strain. But at the end of the day, like you said, it's a recharging station for the folks who enjoy it.
Yeah,
So it's
and
very,
it's
very well
not
put.
that. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. That to
Yeah.
me, like the community is a big part.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yep. So one of the things you touched upon is equipment. So equipment can be really intimidating, and I, just being a new entrant into the sport, can testify to that. So how did you go about researching your equipment, and what do you use?
in regarding to equipment, first of all, my first advice will be do not spend a lot of money. First of all, start with whatever you have around the house. It might not be fancy, it might not look luxurious, but just get into the sport to make sure that you actually like the sport and the sport is right for you. I've seen a lot of people spend a lot of money on wetsuits, on bicycles, you name it. And then a year, 2 years later, they're trying to sell it,
Yeah.
within the group. Um, you know, Good for people like me because we get a good deal. But I don't recommend it, right? So if you're gonna get into the sport, I just recommend if you have a bicycle, even if it's just a plain road bicycle, go with that. Don't. I mean, I finished even half Ironman with a regular bicycle. I didn't get a fancy bicycle. It was just my road bike that I've had for like 10 years.
Yep.
I got new tires on it, make sure that the brakes work. And yeah, I was just having fun with it. So, I mean, that's my first thing. Wetsuits, for example, they could get prices as well. My first wetsuit, I got at Amazon for like $200. It didn't fit perfectly, but it was good enough for me to be able to start, you know, just to see if I liked it. Then, 2 or 3 years later, yes, I did go to like Blue 70. There's a local shop that really, have great customer service. I mean, I don't get anything from them. I tell you, I love them. They have great customer service, great product, price a local, wetsuit shop.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's my recommendation. Don't go crazy. Like groups like this is one of those that you can actually ask for advice. Like, hey, I'm thinking about a wetsuit. I'm thinking about a bicycle. We have people who are like really good at understanding, bicycles, and they will tell you whether or not what you have might be good enough. They might help you find a bicycle, right for your size. And then when you get better on it, for example, I got a tri bike like 3 years into it. I got one at a good deal. Instead of spending $10,000, $12,000, I spend $2,000.
Mhm.
And then you
Yep.
have people that, I mean, the first thing, if you're gonna spend a lot of money on a bike later on, make sure that you do a bike fit. Bike
Yeah.
fit is like where they adjust your seat, because if you're gonna be spending again seven
So
hours
much
on the
money.
bike, you want to make sure that it's comfortable.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. These are the kinds of things that, novices or entrants won't even know about or know to ask, and might end up spending a lot of money on. One thing that I learned was that I actually bought my first bike off Amazon and I
Yep.
self-assembled it. And the guidance was to actually get it fitted or get it checked out so that a professional can, check everything. I kind of under sort of played it a bit, and I didn't do that for the first couple of months. And finally, took it to a shop, and they actually realized that some of the alignments were off, some of the
Mhm.
brakes weren't engaging as they should. So I think safety first. If you're getting something online, make sure you're doing all the right things that they tell you to do to make
Yep.
sure your bike is safe. So just something I learned from my experience.
Yeah, I mean, and
Um,
one thing that you said safety. I mean, for us, it doesn't matter what the sport we're talking about, if it's cycling or swimming or running or, safety for us is kind of like number one. So
mhm.
sometimes we do get upset, like we have very excited newcomers
Yeah.
and there are some things that they want to do and we just bring them down to earth. It's like, we're not going to do that. These are the rules, like for example, when you came to open water swims, for us, you have to have a buoy, you have to have a colorful cap, it's like, basic things that if something goes wrong, we want you to have something to hang on to.
Hmm.
Because again, open water swim is very different from
Yeah.
swimming pool swimming. That's the one thing that, if you have never done open water swims, people realize after they get in the water, it's very easy to get panic
Hmm.
because, you could get a fish swimming close to you or somebody hit you on the head,
Yeah.
or sometimes, you got a stomach ache or whatever, and then you get panicky. So,
Yep. Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Very true. Cool. So, I mean, sort of going off the topic that you raised earlier, which is what training means to you. I think you described something to me earlier in our conversation that kind of struck a chord, which is the concept of a leftover dad.
Yeah.
And sort of what is that concept, and how did you kind of sort of
So
frame it in your life? Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, the leftover that to me was like I didn't even know if the concept existed or not. So eventually, after using it for a while, I went and Googled it, and it does exist, but it has different meanings for different people. To me, what the story, and it's one of the most interesting stories I guess that I've had in my triathlon life is that as many of us, I go to work. You go early, you work all day, and we all like to do a good job when we go to work. So we put a lot of energy into work, and then we come home. Whatever energy we have left over, we have dinner with the family, we help with homework, we help with kids. Eventually, if you're married or whatever, you go to bed and then you go to sleep, right? I realized one day after work, I went to open water swim. So instead of coming home at 5:30, I arrive at 7:30. And so I'm gonna have a sip of water here.
Sure. Go for it, man.
So it was one of those days that it felt really good. I came home. It was 7:30, so I went upstairs and read to the kids, put them to bed. That was it, right? But at the time, my wife says, "Hey, we need to talk." So the first thing that came to mind is like, I'm in trouble here because instead of coming home straight from work and helping with homework, with dinner, with shower, with bath for the kids, I just went and had fun with my group, came home, read to the kids, and that was it. And it was kind of like I felt unfair. So when she said, "Okay, hey, we need to talk," I thought that the worst thing was to come, and I was very pleasantly surprised that actually what she said was, "Hey, I don't know what you're doing, with your group, but whatever it is that you're doing, please keep doing it. The kids love being around you a lot more. You're not as stressful. You're a lot more positive. When you read to the kids, you're not falling asleep. You know, um, again, just be more patient, be more present. Not only with the kids but also with my wife. I mean, I can see that our marriage, it's so much better now than what it was 5 years ago. It's not that it was bad, but I can tell that we're in a much better place, the two of us, because of the honest conversation that we have with each other. And I don't think I would have been able to be in that place if I had not been doing like triathlons or again what makes me happy. And I came home and I can show my kids and my wife a better version of myself than these when I mean leftovers. Like I used to give them the leftovers of the energy that I have at the end of the day, meaning I gave 99% to work and then I gave my family just a little bit, and it kind of provided me a little bit of a perspective that that's not life
Yeah.
and it's not fair to them. And again, we work to provide for the family, but that's not all. You need to be there for your kids and your family. So
Yeah.
I have been doing that now for 4 years, and I hope, I made a bet the other day with a couple of triathletes that when we're 75, I hope that we're still doing triathlons, So,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
just
awesome, man.
because we love it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really touching story, and thank you so much for sort of sharing that. It's I can see it means a lot to you. I think, as you said, because triathlons kind of recharge you, you have more energy to give and
Yep.
have fun with the family, and hopefully everybody in their own lives can find whatever it is, like you said, recharges themselves, right? So that's what's important.
Yep.
One of the things that really struck me when I met you was that you were doing the triathlon relay with your son.
Yes.
How did that come about?
So it's one of those things that you always, again, I always love to see my kids doing things that I love, right? But you always have to let your kids find their own path. So my oldest son, he loves swimming and he loves skiing. But he didn't like triathlons. He didn't like running. He just doesn't like running. And bicycle is not his thing. I mean, he rides a bicycle, but it's not his thing. So I was, I like to do things with my kids, but he's more of a skier. He's also so. It started with I don't know if you know the event is called Ski to Sea. It's in Bellingham. It's a 7 leg event. You start up in the mountain in Mount Baker. You start skiing, then different relays where you do other team members that do the running, bicycling, canoeing, kayaking, so on and so forth. So we did that together. There were also members of the Seattle Green Lake Triathlon group that you know we pretty much came up with two teams. We did that together. My son loved it. I loved it. It was a really good team event. Then after that, we were like, well, you like swimming, and one thing, for example, going back to the safety thing, I don't like to go swimming at the lake by myself. I Even if you feel comfortable, you should never ever go by yourself. Something can happen. You don't want to be by yourself. So my son, is in college, but his local college here. We had time. I said, hey, do you want to come open water swimming with me? So we started doing it like that. That took us to a small triathlon in Whidbey Island. So he really enjoyed it. He did the swim, and I did the bike and the run. And then he wanted to do it again. And I'm like, well, the next one here that is local is this Ironman event that I signed up for. I signed up as an individual, meaning I will do the whole thing, all 3 legs. But when he said that he was interested in it, so I was just when I went into the website and changed it from individual to a relay. And he was very excited. You met him at the lake a couple of times, I believe, and then
Yep.
he was very excited. And we did it. He did the swim, I did the bike, and a friend of ours he did the run. And it was very special for me because again, an Ironman event, doing it with your son, it's I got that picture with him, both of us biting on the metal, and it's really cool, and but the thing is that I also noticed that by what I do, even though I don't notice, I also motivate other people. I have got, like you mentioned it before, but I have other people that have sent me messages, very touching messages that, hey, I didn't know how to swim, or I didn't know this about the bicycle, and thanks to you, now I have finished my first 70.3, or I have finished my first ever triathlon, a sprint triathlon. Someone that, she in this case, I'm not going to mention her name, she didn't think she would ever be able to do a triathlon. And the fact that, just seeing me, I guess, motivated her, and she said, well, if you can do it, I can do it. And there's a thing too, like when you're doing a triathlon, you see things, you see other people do things that, hey, like in my case, motivated me. For example, I was doing my first Olympic in Lake Chelan, and I'm not a fast swimmer. I'm an okay swimmer, but I'm not fast. And I will never forget, I was doing my swim, I was almost done, and this young kid, he was passing me. When I looked to the left, he was actually swimming, but he was tied to a kayak with his brother on top of it. So he was actually pushing his brother, and he was, even though he was pushing his brother on the kayak, he was still swimming faster than I was. So I was
Wow.
like, what the heck, So it was one of those things that you're like, but so I know that I'm not fast, that I'm not a professional, but I have a lot of fun. But when you see things like that, it really motivates me that, here's this young kid doing this
Yep.
thing with his brother. And then, you see them on the run, you see them on the bike. It's very touching,
Yeah.
when you see people pushing themselves to become better people. I mean, that's to me, triathlon is like people trying to be better people.
Yep.
And this world needs more people like that. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point and kind of brings me to the next sort of topic for the day, which is
yeah.
how's the community experience been for you, and any friendships or events that you can think of or talk about that you can share?
So the community thing to me is like number one. I mean, it's like again, when you join a group, you're like very hesitant. You don't know what you're gonna meet, who are you gonna meet. But I'm telling you, I could spend an hour mentioning by first names people that have already have events with or memories with, and it's really really special. I mean, I some of my best friends now are part of the group. And the more events you do, the more things in common you find that you have with each other, and then you end up, hey, every Sunday, let's meet, for a run or a coffee. I remember my wife at the beginning, she was like, wow, you're spending a lot of time with this triathlon club. You guys, I don't know, this seems weird. She was like, what the heck, right? She came to Salem, Oregon, where I did my first 70.3, and she was able to meet a lot of the triathletes. And she was like, these are really nice people. These are, professionals. These are just people that are type A individuals that just like to, you know, to immerse themselves into something better. And, like, again, I get texts almost every day from somebody from the club, either, hey, do you want to do this? Or sometimes even checking on you, because you share experiences. And
Yep.
the thing about this is that, I don't want to get into this in this podcast, but we all go through the really dark moments in our lives. I don't want to get into that, but to me, I still go through those. And again, I'm not going to get into the details of it.
Sure.
But like when I go for long runs, when I go for swims, it really helps me, again, think about that and make me feel better. And sometimes you share that with some of these group members. And the fact that they check on you, like out of the blue, it's like, hey, how are you doing? And you say, you're good, you're good. They're like, good for you, excellent. But if not, they're like, hey, I'm here to listen. So, to be able to have people like that, that don't make fun of you, they just want you to be happy. You don't find groups of people, that usually people want, okay, what is it for me? What's in return, right? In this case, no, people are like, if you want to spend time with me, great. If not, go for it.
Yep. Yep.
So yeah, I love this group. Yeah, not enough things to say
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
Amazing, man. Thanks so
Yep.
much for sharing. In fact, this group has been kind of a way for me to also get back to socializing post COVID, because, it's been tough to meet people. I work remote. So, just
Hmm.
meeting people on a regular basis has been really, really fun for me. Kind of takes me back to my office days. So I totally hear you, man. I think the community and the support has been tremendous. So awesome. Well, yeah, I think that's our show for today, man. Thanks so much for
Yep.
being present here and, being so open and honest. And look, you're a huge member of the community.
Yep.
Nothing but great things to say about you. And thanks so much for all the help you've given me.
All right, Ram, thanks for having me. And, hope to see you soon, man.
Yep.
All right.
Take care. Yep.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.